Beneath Egypt's endless blue sky, where the desert stretches out like a golden sea, massive stone blocks rise and stack upon one another, forming one of the greatest wonders of the world, the Great Pyramid of Giza. For thousands of years, it has stood tall and unyielding, defying time and the shifting desert winds, like a silent guardian of history. Yet one question has puzzled humanity for centuries. How did people, more than 4,500 years ago, manage to build something so colossal that even modern technology would struggle to replicate? Was it purely human strength and ingenuity, or is there another mystery buried beneath the scorching sands? The Egyptian sky blazes with the colors of sunset, the last rays of sunlight sliding across the golden face of the desert. In the distance, on the west bank of the Nile, a massive shape rises above the sea of sand, a giant monument reflecting the fading light like an eternal torch in the heart of the desert. This is the Great Pyramid of Giza, the only surviving wonder of the ancient world, and perhaps history's greatest unsolved riddle. To understand how it was built, we must travel back in time over 4,500 years ago to Egypt's Old Kingdom, when Pharaoh Khufu, also known as Cheops, ruled. This was Egypt at its peak, powerful, wealthy, and deeply religious. The pharaoh was seen as the living embodiment of Horus, the one and only bridge between mortals and the gods. To ensure his soul's immortality, he needed an eternal home, a monument that would outlast time itself. The story began with one command: build the greatest tomb the world has ever seen. When the order was given, the drum beats echoed across the towns and villages along the Nile. Tens of thousands of people, farmers, craftsmen, architects, and even conscripted laborers, were summoned to the Giza Plateau. They came from everywhere: fertile delta lands, remote oases, and even territories conquered by Egypt. Under the relentless sun, these endless streams of workers marched toward a project that would last decades, perhaps even an entire lifetime. Giza wasn't just a stretch of empty sand. Once the decision was made, the royal architects surveyed the land, calculating the winds, the path of the sun, and, most importantly, the alignment with the stars. The ancient Egyptians believed that the pharaoh's soul would ascend to the heavens through the constellation Orion, the symbol of the god Osiris. That's why the pyramid's axis had to align almost perfectly with the 4 cardinal points of the compass, a feat so precise that modern engineers are stunned to find an error margin of less than 0.005 degrees. But choosing the location was just the beginning. The biggest challenge was this: how do you move and stack over 2 million stone blocks, each weighing between 2 and 80 tons, to a height of more than 140 meters? Ancient records and archaeological discoveries reveal that high-quality limestone was quarried from Tura, about 13 kilometers southeast of Giza, while the enormous granite blocks used for the inner chambers came from Aswan, more than 800 kilometers away. This meant the Egyptians had to transport the stones over vast distances, mostly by boat along the Nile. It's believed that during the annual floods, when the Nile overflowed, boats carried the stones to temporary docks near the construction site. From there, the blocks were loaded onto wooden sledges and dragged along paths lubricated with water or mud to reduce friction. A tomb relief from Jehuti-Hotep depicts hundreds of men hauling a massive statue, while a man at the front pours water onto the sand, a clear sign that this technique was indeed used. Transport, however, was only part of the puzzle. The greatest mystery remains: how did they lift the stones so high? One theory suggests that a giant ramp spiraled around the pyramid, allowing workers to drag the stones up step by step. Others believe there were long, straight ramps stretching for kilometers from the ground up. But to this day, no clear remains of such ramps have been found, perhaps because they were dismantled right after construction was completed. What's truly astonishing is that, despite using only the simplest tools, mostly copper and stone, the ancient Egyptians cut and fit the blocks so precisely that not even a sheet of paper can slide between them. This level of craftsmanship demanded incredible skill and accuracy, especially since even a 1 centimeter error at the base could lead to a meter's deviation at the top. While stones were hauled and lifted step by step, another team, Egypt's finest craftsmen and builders, worked on carving, decorating, and constructing the pyramid's inner chambers. The most famous of these is the King's Chamber, where Khufu's granite sarcophagus rests. Placing the massive granite ceiling beams, each weighing up to 70 tons, over 40 meters above ground, remains a feat that modern engineers still find difficult to reproduce. The Giza Plateau was more than a worksite. It was a temporary city. Excavations have uncovered housing areas, kitchens, food storage, and even medical facilities. Evidence shows that workers were not always slaves, as is often believed. Many were farmers fulfilling their labor duty during the agricultural off-season, and they were paid in food, beer, and clothing. This well-organized system kept tens of thousands of workers fed and healthy for decades. But the story of the Great Pyramid is not only about extraordinary human effort. Within its walls lie secrets that modern science has only just begun to uncover. A scorching wind from the Sahara sweeps across the Giza Plateau, carrying fine grains of sand into every corner of the colossal worksite. The rhythmic chants of hundreds of laborers echo across the vast expanse, mingling with the thud of stone against stone and the sharp clang of copper hammers striking white limestone. This is more than a construction site. It's a grand symphony of human strength, ingenuity, and unwavering faith in the pharaoh, the living god on earth. Yet the great question still haunts generations. How did they lift and place millions of massive stone blocks with such flawless precision? Let's start with one of the most widely discussed ideas, the straight ramp theory. According to this theory, the ancient Egyptians built a massive ramp of packed earth and rubble, stretching from the pyramid's base outward for several kilometers. The stone blocks were loaded onto wooden sledges and dragged up the slope by teams of workers, with the ramp surface constantly wetted to reduce friction. However, practical problems trouble this theory. If the Great Pyramid originally stood 146 meters tall before losing its tip, the ramp would have to be at least 1.6 kilometers long to maintain a manageable slope for hauling multi-ton stones. This means the amount of material needed to build the ramp would actually exceed the volume of the pyramid itself. Furthermore, such a straight ramp would completely block the outer faces of the pyramid, making it impossible for workers to check the alignment of the edges and corners during construction. Another, more intriguing idea is the spiral ramp theory. In 2005, French architect Jean-Pierre Houdin proposed that the pyramid might have been built using an internal spiraling ramp. In his vision, the stones were dragged through interior passageways, gradually lifted higher with each turn around the pyramid's core. This approach would save space, avoid the need for a massive external ramp, and allow workers to operate on multiple levels at the same time. Interestingly, some 3D scanning and thermal imaging surveys have revealed mysterious voids inside the pyramid, features that could match the spiral ramp concept. However, no one can confirm this with certainty, as drilling or opening these areas is strictly restricted. Then there's a bolder idea, the use of water power. Some researchers believe the Egyptians may have taken advantage of the Nile's flooding season, digging canals and reservoirs right next to the construction site. Massive stones could be floated to the base of the pyramid by boat, then raised to higher levels using a system of floats or water-filled basins. This theory draws on the Egyptians' proven expertise in controlling water flow and building hydraulic structures. But beyond these technically plausible ideas, there are more colorful and controversial theories about lost ancient technologies. Some theorists suggest they used counterweight-based lifting machines or even discovered a chemical solution that could soften stone, turning it into a clay-like paste that was molded and then hardened back into rock. This idea is partly inspired by the fact that some blocks in the pyramid have an unusual grain structure, as if they had been heated or chemically treated. And then, of course, there's the alien theory, a favorite among UFO enthusiasts. They argue that the precision of the Great Pyramid far exceeds the technological capabilities of its time, with sides almost perfectly straight, angles perfectly square, and an alignment with Earth's true meridian that's astonishingly accurate. Followers of this theory believe either a highly advanced civilization once existed on Earth, or that visitors from the stars lent a helping hand. But to truly understand the construction process, we need to look deeper into the lives of the people who poured their sweat and blood into creating this wonder. Archaeological discoveries south of Giza have revealed the remains of a massive workers' city. There were long rows of housing, giant kitchens with evidence of hundreds of loaves baked at once, and bones from cattle, sheep, and goats, proof of a protein-rich diet, a luxury for the average Egyptian farmer. This shows that pyramid builders were not simply mistreated slaves, but in large part seasonal laborers, recruited from across the land and well-fed to keep them strong for the grueling work. A workday began with the first rays of sunlight over the desert. Teams of workers split into different tasks: quarrying stone, transporting blocks, hauling them up ramps, or fitting them into place. The sounds of drums, chant-like calls, and shouted commands echoed across the site. Crews were typically organized into groups of 20-40, with overseers, often soldiers or royal officials, ensuring productivity. The most dangerous job was placing blocks at great heights. Especially as the pyramid neared completion, the surface area shrank, working space became tighter, and even the smallest mistake could send a block sliding down with catastrophic results. Researchers believe that to set the final stone, the pyramid's capstone or ben-ben, the Egyptians may have built special wooden scaffolding or used counterweight systems to slowly lift and position it with precision. Perhaps most astonishing of all is the absolute precision. Modern laser measurements reveal that the four sides of the Great Pyramid are almost perfectly equal, with a margin of error of only a few millimeters over a length of more than 230 meters. Such accuracy required not only masterful craftsmanship, but also an incredibly advanced system of surveying and alignment, something we still don't fully understand, given they had no compasses or modern instruments. The mysteries don't end there. Many researchers have noted that the placement of the three Great Pyramids of Giza closely matches the three stars of Orion's belt. This cannot be mere coincidence. For the Egyptians, Orion was associated with Osiris, the god of death and rebirth. In this way, the pharaoh, after death, would merge with the heavens and live eternally among the gods. From this observation, some scholars have asked, could the pyramids have been more than just tombs? If their sole purpose was burial, why the meticulous astronomical alignment? Why align the axis so precisely that it's less than 1/10 of a degree off true north? One controversial theory suggests that the Great Pyramid was also an astronomical and religious structure, functioning as a kind of gateway between the living and the gods. The internal shafts, rather than merely serving for transport or to mislead tomb robbers, might have been designed so that sunlight or starlight would shine into specific chambers on certain days of the year, marking important religious or agricultural events. Recent infrared surveys have shown that some blocks emit unusual heat signatures, as if there are voids inside them or different materials hidden within. If these voids truly exist, they could conceal more chambers never before discovered. And who knows, perhaps even evidence that could completely rewrite our understanding of ancient Egyptian civilization. But such exploration is far from easy. The Egyptian government is extremely cautious about approving any drilling or new entry points into the pyramids, fearing damage to their original structure and the loss of historical value. And so, the mystery remains, sealed beneath the white limestone that has weathered the desert sun for millennia. That silence only fuels the imagination. Some believe the pyramid hides Pharaoh Khufu's treasure. Others whisper of a hidden library containing the lost knowledge of Atlantis, stored away until humanity is wise enough to comprehend it. These questions about how it was built, its true purpose, and the secrets within will continue to haunt us as we move into the next part, where the theories grow bolder and even more dangerous. The air inside the Great Pyramid of Giza feels like another world entirely. From the blinding sunlight and dry, scorching heat of the desert, you step into thick darkness, where the temperature drops to a steady 20 degrees and silence is almost absolute, broken only by your own breathing and the occasional drip of condensed water from somewhere unseen. Thick limestone walls, meters deep, press in around you, making you feel as though you've been swallowed by some ancient giant that has slumbered for over 4,500 years. The pyramid's main entrance is on the northern face, set several meters above ground level. It leads into a narrow, low tunnel that forces an adult to stoop and move slowly, step by step. This passage descends into the descending passage, then branches toward other, more mysterious corridors, the Grand Gallery, the Queen's Chamber, and the King's Chamber. Each chamber is built with almost absurd precision. The King's Chamber is made entirely of red granite, transported from Aswan, nearly 900 kilometers away. Each block, weighing between 50 and 80 tons, is fitted so tightly that not even the edge of a knife can slide into the joints. Its ceiling is formed by an A-frame of 9 massive granite slabs stacked to distribute the weight of the entire pyramid above, millions of tons, so it would never collapse. From the King's Chamber, 2 narrow shafts, each only 20 x 20 centimeters, extend outward. For decades, archaeologists assumed these were simply ventilation shafts. But newer studies reveal that they don't open directly to the outside. They align precisely with specific stars in the constellations of Orion and Ursa Major. This has fueled the idea that they were soul channels for the pharaoh, guiding him to the heavens to be reborn among the gods. Even more intriguing are the unexplored voids. In 2017, the Scan Pyramids project, using muon imaging, a cosmic ray technology that can see through solid matter, discovered a massive empty space directly above the Grand Gallery. At least 30 meters long and 6 meters high, it has not been opened since ancient times. No one knows what lies inside, perhaps just a structural void to relieve weight, or a sealed chamber holding treasure, documents, or artifacts from a long-lost civilization. The problem is, the Egyptian government refuses all proposals to drill into it, partly for preservation, partly due to pressure from the global scientific community, who fear any interference could damage a 4,500-year-old structure. And so, the void remains untouched, one of modern archaeology's greatest mysteries. The deeper you look, the more the pyramid seems like a machine rather than a tomb. Some researchers have noted that the arrangement of tunnels and chambers follows complex geometric patterns similar to the principles of acoustic resonance. They ask, could this have been a giant energy device harnessing Earth's natural vibrations? Some theories go even further, suggesting the pyramid could have generated electricity. Supporters point out that the white limestone casing, an insulator, surrounds core blocks of red granite, a good conductor. Combined with groundwater from the Nile and atmospheric ionization, they argue, the pyramid might have produced a weak electrical current, enough to light torches or power sacred rituals. If the power plant theory sounds far-fetched, remember that even the idea of star-aligned construction was once dismissed as fantasy, until modern measurements proved it true. History has a way of surprising us. Beyond scientific theories, countless mystical tales have surrounded the pyramid. As early as the 19th century, European explorers reported strange phenomena inside, compasses spinning off course, equipment malfunctioning, and even bread and fresh meat left in the king's chamber remaining unspoiled for days. Some fringe scientists dubbed this the pyramid effect, claiming its shape generates a mysterious energy field capable of preserving matter. Another enigma lies in the carvings and markings yet to be deciphered. In narrow, overlooked crevices, there are symbols unlike traditional Egyptian hieroglyphs. Some researchers think they are builders' technical notes, but others believe they belong to an older language, perhaps the signature of a civilization even more ancient, possibly Atlantis. From a spiritual perspective, the pyramid is seen as a gateway between the living and the divine. The burial of a pharaoh was not just the interment of a body, it was preparation for rebirth in the eternal realm. Every passage, every chamber, every stone carried symbolic meaning. The descent into the earth representing entry into darkness. The upward sloping corridor symbolizing the climb toward the heavens. And finally, the king's chamber as the cosmic center aligned with the stars. One striking fact, aside from Khufu himself, no pharaoh's mummy has ever been found inside the Great Pyramids of Giza. If these weren't true burial sites, then where are the mummies? Or were they never placed here at all? Some even bolder theories claim the pyramid is a knowledge vault encoded with mathematical and astronomical ratios, a message for future generations, or perhaps for civilizations beyond Earth. The coincidences between its dimensions and mathematical constants, like P and the golden ratio, only add fuel to these ideas. No matter how far science advances, the pyramid will always keep a part of itself in shadow, a darkness untouched by the light of understanding. And it is this very darkness that drives us to keep searching, uncovering, and dreaming. In the next part, we leave behind theory and enter the realm of the most tangible archaeological discoveries of the past century. Moments when stone walls gave way, when ancient sand was swept aside and secrets thought lost, forever emerged once again into the sunlight. Taking your first step inside the pyramid always brings a strange mix of feelings, anticipation, reverence, and the uncanny sense that you are trespassing into a realm that does not belong to the living. A flashlight beam sweeps across walls coated in the dust of millennia. Tiny grains of sand trickle down from cracks in the stone. Your footsteps echo back at you like distant drums. For archaeologists, every single centimeter ahead could conceal an invaluable treasure or a secret powerful enough to rewrite history. Over the past century, the exploration of the Great Pyramid has seen moments that would become legends in archaeology. In 1837, British explorer Howard Vyse carried out a bold and, by today's standards, destructive expedition. Using explosives, he blasted open a series of hidden chambers above the king's chamber. Inside, Weiss found red markings on the walls, believed to be hieroglyphs naming Pharaoh Khufu. This discovery became one of the strongest pieces of evidence linking the Great Monument to Egypt's fourth dynasty. Yet, decades later, some began to question the authenticity of the markings, suggesting they might have been forged to support Weiss's theory. By the 20th century, modern archaeological technology began to transform the search. Tools such as ultrasound scanners, ground-penetrating radar, and, more recently, muon imaging have allowed scientists to see through solid stone without damage. The most remarkable result came in 2017, when the International Scan Pyramids team discovered the Grand Void, a space at least 30 meters long directly above the Grand Gallery. This void appears in no ancient drawings or records. Its size and position led many to imagine it as a ceremonial chamber or storage hall. Some theorize it could contain sacred religious objects, tools, blueprints, or knowledge that the ancient Egyptians wished to preserve for eternity. But with the Egyptian government forbidding drilling or the creation of new entryways, all such ideas remain speculation. The void hangs there, like a silent challenge to every researcher alive. Beyond architectural finds, archaeology has also uncovered traces of the people who built this wonder. Not far from Giza, excavations have revealed a workers' cemetery and countless artifacts, copper tools, pottery, animal bones, and the graves of master builders. These discoveries reinforce the belief that the pyramid was not the work of slaves in chains, but of skilled laborers working in organized crews, fed and supported by the pharaoh's resources. Other findings have been equally controversial. In certain narrow passages, a crust of salt crystals clings to the stone, evidence that some corridors were once flooded. Was this the result of natural flooding, or part of a ritual tied to a river of souls guiding the pharaoh to Osiris? Not every exploration ended safely. Some adventurers died suddenly after entering the pyramid, likely from toxic gases trapped for thousands of years, though folklore calls it the pharaoh's curse. Such stories only add to the pyramid's mix of allure, dread, and lingering mystery. Today, thanks to international collaboration, we know far more about the pyramid's structure, materials, and construction timeline. Yet the more we learn, the more we realize how much remains unknown. Each time a stone door opens, 10 new questions take its place. In the next part, we will leave behind purely archaeological perspectives and step into the boldest theories. From extraterrestrial involvement to lost high technologies, to the idea that the pyramid is part of a global network stretching across continents. This is where history, science, and the mystical intertwine, and where the line between truth and legend becomes thinner than ever. If the previous parts have been a journey through the traces of archaeology, then in this final chapter, we step into a vast realm of imagination and daring speculation, a place where scientific data merges with legend, and each new piece of the puzzle has the power to change the entire picture. For decades, mainstream scholars have maintained the view that the Great Pyramid of Giza was the tomb of Pharaoh Khufu, built through human labor and the engineering skills available at the time. Yet, the more evidence we uncover, the more details seem impossible to explain this way. Questions like, why are the stone blocks cut and fitted so precisely that a blade cannot slip between them? How were 80-ton granite blocks transported from Aswan nearly 900 kilometers away? And why is the entire structure perfectly aligned with the 4 cardinal points and key constellations? Still have no definitive answers. One of the most controversial ideas is the ancient alien hypothesis. Supporters claim that the technology of Old Kingdom Egypt could not have achieved such near-perfect precision without help from a more advanced civilization, possibly from beyond Earth. They point to carvings at the Temple of Abydos, which some interpret as depictions of helicopters, submarines, and modern aircraft, while archaeologists explain these as overlapping inscriptions creating coincidental shapes. Many still believe they are remnants of a time when humanity had contact with superior technology. Another theory suggests the pyramid is part of a global network. When comparing the coordinates and orientations of Giza to other ancient monuments, the Pyramid of Teotihuacan in Mexico, Inca temples in Peru, Stonehenge in England, researchers noticed something odd. They seem to lie along the same energy line encircling the Earth. If this is coincidence, it is an extraordinary one. If not, could it mean a global civilization existed tens of thousands of years ago, leaving behind these marker stations as a communication or energy system? But it's not just about energy or geography. The pyramid also encodes mathematical secrets. The ratio of the base's perimeter to its height corresponds closely to the value of 2p, and if you multiply the base area by the golden ratio f, you get a number strikingly close to the surface area of a hemisphere of Earth. This has led some researchers to believe that the ancient Egyptians possessed geometric and astronomical knowledge far beyond what we give them credit for. Some fringe scholars go even further, suggesting that the Great Pyramid was not the first structure at Giza, but a reconstruction of a far older prototype, possibly from the legendary lost civilization of Atlantis. If true, the pyramid would be more than a symbol of a pharaoh's power. It would be a legacy, carrying secrets that modern humanity is only beginning to touch. Perhaps the most intriguing theory, though, is one that blends science and spirituality. Some researchers believe the shape and structure of the pyramid can influence human consciousness. Experiments suggest that when inside certain chambers, brainwave patterns shift toward deep meditative states, states that monks or shamans spend years mastering. If this was intentional, then the pyramid was not only a physical monument, but also a spiritual machine, a tool to connect the human mind with the eternal. In the end, one truth remains undeniable. The Great Pyramid of Giza, after more than 4,500 years, still stands in the desert, defying sandstorms, time, and the limits of human understanding. It is an immortal symbol of curiosity, the urge to conquer the unknown, and a reminder that history still holds countless secrets untold. Perhaps one day, technology will be powerful enough to unlock all of its mysteries. Or perhaps the pyramid will always keep its deepest essence hidden, ensuring that no matter the era, humanity will still look up and wonder, who built it and why? After this 5-part journey, we have traveled from the very first stones quarried in Aswan, carried across the Nile, to the skillful hands and creative minds of ancient Egyptian craftsmen. From the engineering theories behind its construction to the archaeological secrets hidden deep within its core, from scientific data to bold speculations about extraterrestrial contact, global energy networks, and the lost legacy of Atlantis. Though modern science has illuminated many mysteries, countless questions remain unanswered. Is the Great Pyramid of Giza merely a tomb, or is it a spiritual machine, an astronomical observatory, or a vault of ancient knowledge? Are we truly seeing the whole truth, or only the outer shell of a far greater enigma? Perhaps it is the pyramid's unchanging silence, standing in the desert for over 4,500 years, that offers the real answer, a reminder that no matter how far technology advances, there will always be mysteries that compel us to keep searching. And the Great Pyramid of Giza will remain there, challenging us until the very end of time.